Good evening and welcome to Joy News Prime. Coming up this hour, Burkinabés fleeing their homes to seek refuge in Ghana, following report of terrorist attack in some communities at the southern borders of the country. Now, minority in parliament resists attempt by the majority to amend portions of a finance committee report that exposed the precarious situation of the economy, in particular the dwindling central bank foreign reserves.
I'm not aware that a statement can amend a committee's report after the committee report has been adopted and subsequently approved.
It's true that it means that the Minister of Finance lied to the committee.
Upper West Regional Minister locks out municipal and district chief executives for arriving late to a coordinating council meeting.
I will not tolerate any insubordination, right? I will not allow anybody to undermine me or undermine the government. I'm particularly disappointed in the MMDCs who are not here.
Also in this bulletin, Ghana Education Service boss was only making an analogy in Free Senior High School review comment. That's according to the Education Ministry.
We have not had that conversation so far as a review, especially within the context of what it was placed. From the understanding I have, is an analogy he was creating. I mean, you and I know that when it comes to policy decisions, it has more to do with the president.
And in prime business with Charles Aite.
Tonight, President Akufo-Addo insists he is still committed to fighting corruption as he opens a new office for the Registrar of Companies.
Directing access to information contained in the register. The Office of the Registrar of Companies become a variable partner of government in the effort to root out corruption.
Attempt by the majority in parliament to amend portions of the finance committee report that led to the approval of the $750 million loan has failed in the House. According to the finance committee report, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had told the committee that parliament had to approve the loan agreement urgently because the country was on the verge of bankruptcy, and in particular that the Bank of Ghana's foreign reserves had dwindled from some $9 billion to over $3 billion. This is said to have triggered negative reactions within the investor community, prompting MPP MPs to unsuccessfully try to change that. Now, parliamentary correspondent Kweku Asante has more in this report.
Chairman of the Finance Committee, Kweku Kwatin, sought to correct the figures on the country's international reserves, describing the figures in his committee's report as an error.
We reported that the international reserves of the Bank of Ghana had declined from $9 billion to $3 billion. Mr. Speaker, this was an error. It was an unfortunate oversight.
But this was fiercely resisted by the ranking member on the committee, Dr. Kiselato Forsen, who argued that statements cannot be used to amend reports of committees that has already been adopted by the House.
I'm not aware that a statement can amend a committee's report after the committee report has been adopted and subsequently approved. Mr. Speaker, the $3 billion that the committee's report captured did not just surface. These are statements that came from the minister responsible for finance. Mr. Speaker, I was in that meeting. I do not think that it is the central bank, it is him who has to amend that. If for any reason the information we have on record is different from what the central bank has, it is for the central bank to issue a statement. The Bank of Ghana should be the ones to issue a statement to correct same.
Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak argued that information was provided by the Finance Minister himself to the committee. He claimed that the Finance Minister lied to the committee to convince them to approve the loan agreement.
I can bet him he has done more harm than whatever good he thought he was going to do. If what he's saying is true, that it means that the Minister of Finance lied to the committee. And Mr. Speaker, and I'm saying that on all these legs, he makes the situation worse.
But the majority side, led by Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin, pushed for this correction to be effected.
It is not the first time. It is not the first time, and I'm happy we are very senior members of this House. It is not the first time that an error is being corrected. And Mr. Speaker, he has done so in good faith.
But this correction could not be made.
Procedurally, Mr. Speaker, I think we have a difficulty. And I'm urging that we wait until we can take notice of what he has said, but let the minister come on Monday, and when he comes, this matter will be put beyond doubt.
The government needed this mistake allegedly fixed because it feared it could trigger negative investor reaction. But of course, one other issue that has also come up in the House is whether or not the projects listed by government, including the Swami interchange and Sofoline interchange, is the real reason why government needed this $750 million loan to be passed. If you look at the issues Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta raised in that committee report having to do with the country's debt position, whether or not the country could go bankrupt without this loan agreement, and also whether or not without this the country could not show up its international gross reserves, it begs the question whether the projects listed were the real reason why government needed this loan or it needed it for other purposes. The majority side did not succeed in getting these corrections effected. The minority is now alleging that the government is cooking figures.
So what do these figures about Ghana's economy really mean? Joining us with some answers is an economist with the University of Cape Coast, Professor John Gachi. Prof, thank you so much for your time. How distressed is Ghana's economy?
Well, it's deeply distressed to the extent that the finance minister, on account of having validated data from the Bank of Ghana, tells Parliament of Ghana that our reserve has reduced from 9 billion to 3 billion. Therefore, opening country to further risk from the investor community and some deepening effect on the role that the Bank of Ghana is playing to moderate the effect of the financial difficulty we are facing. And to the extent that the revenue that we are raising is being consumed by interest payments, and we are very close to default, which will actually pronounce serious risk about our economy. The cost of that default will be much more than anything in the eye of the investors.
Now, so to the layperson, what does that mean? What can we make out of everything that we are saying about Ghana's economy?
Everything we are saying about Ghana's economy that is deeply distressed, to the extent that many of the things that could be done ordinarily are not being done because the funds are not there, because the fiscal situation is precarious. Discharge our obligation under the goods and services budget. We are not able to continue projects because the funds are not there. Okay. All that we think about managing the economy now is how to ensure that we don't default our repayment of debt, and how to ensure that we barely keep workers not being agitated because we are able to pay their salaries. That is the status of the economy of Ghana.
Is our economy close to a possible collapse?
The threat of possible collapse is there because the finance minister has told us our reserve has actually gone down from 9 billion to 3 billion, which means our exchange rate volatility may not be protected, which also means that as opposed to what we used to say that our import cover is about 3 to 4 months, that is not true. We may be operating within a period of 1 month of import cover, and that is threatening. And I believe that is the reason why we even beg for the $750 million to be approved in order to avoid default.
Interesting. If you are to advise government on one thing has to do to ensure that things do not occur the way it's looking, what would that be?
I think the first thing government should do is to remove the opaqueness in dealing with financial data. Government is not showing goodwill to indicate clearly that we're in a serious problem. IMF came to this country. Government has not given us feedback as to data being collected, what is the nature of our debt, what is the nature of fiscal dominance affecting Bank of Ghana, what is the nature of our repayment of debt, whether we are getting closer to default or not, to rally the people of Ghana behind government activity. That is not being done. It's as if government is running away from giving feedback to the country, and that if you are in a serious challenge and you are behaving this way, it does not provide a good fit for the people to support you to handle the situation. I think that is the first thing that government should correct, and I believe we may be seeing some change in some of the things that we are seeing.
Okay, Prof. Thank you so much that you could find time to join us here on Joy News Prime. To other stories now, and thousands of Burkinabés have fled their homes to seek refuge in Ghana. This follows a report of terrorist attack in some communities at the southern borders of the country. The refugees are currently provided shelter in mosques, classrooms, and integrated among community dwellers in the Upper East region. My colleague Samuel Imbura joins us live from the region with details. Sami, you are in the region. Tell us how serious the situation is and what security agencies are doing.
Right. Kojo, what I can say is that if you look at the communities along Zebla in the Boko West district, if you look at the Boko municipality, if you look at Binduri, these are the three major districts that have been affected by the invasion of these refugees. Our borders to these to Burkina Faso are really porous, such that anywhere you pass, it can actually lead you to Burkina Faso. So this particular reported incident started sometime about on the 11th of July, where some of them started coming into the Zebla areas, coming into Boko and its enclave. So this is an everyday movement of the people into the Upper East region from Burkina Faso as a result of the reported attack by terrorists in the southern borders of Burkina Faso. Today, what I can say is that the situation was so serious to the extent that the Regional Security Council had to move into these areas to talk with the community members and also assess the situation on the ground to also protect the citizens in that particular belt. So you see NADMO officials going there with relief items to provide these refugees. They've not had any contact with the Burkinabe authorities yet, but at the regional level, the security agencies are ensuring that the borders are properly protected. As the visuals, you are watching in the visuals, these people have been brought to, have been added among community members who also have their relations across the borders. And some of them are actually camped in mosque, classrooms, and then, other areas or open areas that they can, accommodate them whilst looking at the way forward. But what I can say is that the security has actually been beefed along that area, taking into consideration that Boko is already a hotspot, a security hotspot where they are trying to manage the conflict in that area, and then having this additional spillover of movement from Burkina Faso into Ghana as a result of this reported attack. So I must say security agencies are on their, have actually stepped up their game to ensure that at least beyond giving the protection to these refugees, our borders are also protected.
All right. Now, Daniel Azembe is the Binduri District NADMO Director and also joins us on phone with some more to this. Mr. Azembe, how are these refugees currently being managed?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. The refugees, they are in our district, Binduri District to be precise. They are in individual homes, mosques, and other public places that we are actually at the moment while we wait for government timely intervention so that we can actually take good care of them at the moment.
What are we doing to ensure that these people are indeed, people in need and not like we do suspect terrorists who are clothed in different cloth to deceive us?
Yeah, what we are doing at the moment, the security is on the ground, protecting the various communities these people are staying. The immigration are there, the army there, the PNI, and all the security apparatus. They are around all the that these refugees are found. And then the situation of food items, we as NADMO have actually called our regional office as well as the national to actually come in early enough so that we can give them necessary support. But as we talk now, yesterday, the member of parliament and then the Deputy Minister for Work and Housing, Honorable Abanga Abdullahi, who is a member of parliament for the Binduru constituency, came in with some few relief items which we shared to the people yesterday.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Zembe, for joining us. He is Director for Binduru in NADMO there. Now, the Ghana Bar Association has debunked the opposition NDC's allegations against Chief Justice Kwesi Eniniabua. The party accused the Chief Justice of supervising administrative abuses never seen in the history of Ghana and has called for his administration to be investigated. General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia spoke at a news conference earlier.
Administrative abuses by His Lordship, the Chief Justice himself. Quite apart from the above, the Honorable Chief Justice, Justice Kwesi Eniniabua, is likely to go down in history as the worst Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana since the inception of the Fourth Republic. His reign as Chief Justice has been characterized by unimaginable administrative abuses. These abuses are thrown into sharp relief when the conduct of the current Chief Justice is measured against the professionalism and conduct of former Chief Justices. We recall, in particular, the words of Chief Justice Apalu at his send-off party, that, and I beg to quote, "The one great quality I would wish to see in my colleagues is courage. That is to say, they should be in a position to defend to the death positions they believe to be right. I charge you to keep or help keep the flag of the judiciary flying, and may the profession as a whole provide leadership and best counsel on these professional matters which we have all held in trust for the benefit of generations yet unborn," unquote. It appears that this wise counsel of Chief Justice Apalu has no resonance with our current Chief Justice, who has failed to show leadership and to keep the flag of the judiciary flying by abusing his powers to empanel the courts. It has been our understanding that the setting up of divisions of the High Court in Accra, such as the Criminal Division, Lands Division, the Human Rights Division, and the Commercial Division, were all meant to ensure that these specialized courts deal with matters that directly fall within their competence and jurisdictions. In fact, these courts started very beautifully, and many were those who hailed the establishment of the court.
But the association says the allegations are unfounded and a probe into justice administration is unnecessary. Now, PR of the association, Xavier Kojo, joins us through Zoom. Thank you so much, Mr. Kojo. What must convince the Ghanaian who holds the view that the justice system in Ghana is fraught with abuses to agree with you that indeed a probe is unnecessary?
Thank you very much, and thank you for your viewers. Thank you very much, and thank you to your viewers. I don't think that the allegations being made, so to speak, are anything to go by, because there is nothing strange and untoward to have divisions of the High Court, let's say criminal division, land division, doing cases that are not tagged as such. What I mean by this is that there is nothing wrong having a judge, say, sitting in the commercial division of the High Court doing land cases. Because what we must understand is that there is only one High Court with jurisdiction in all matters, both civil and criminal. But for administrative purposes, divisions have been created. And when the divisions are created and there's a realization that one division is overloaded, there is nothing wrong reducing the workload of that particular division and moving the work to another. Because once the High Court has general jurisdiction in all matters, what it means is that every High Court judge is competent enough to handle any of the subject areas, except that for purposes of administration, divisions have been created. So there is nothing untoward if that is not going on.
Well, but they accuse the Chief Justice of failing to empanel, judges to deal with matters of interest. How do we respond to that?
Well, I don't know what they mean by that, but reading their statement or their press release, I realized that one of their concerns is the fact that why should High Court, Court of Appeal judges be empaneled to handle cases at the High Court level? There is nothing wrong with that. When I joined the bar, some 16, 17 years ago, the current Chief Justice was a Court of Appeal judge. But one of the cases I was involved in, he was doing it as an additional High Court judge in his capacity as a Court of Appeal judge. Even the current case involving Mr. Dr. Kobna Opuni, am I right?
Okay.
It's being handled by a Supreme Court judge. So there is nothing wrong having a judge of a superior court or one of the superior courts being asked to handle a case of a superior court lower. There's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong, because these are practical issues that we deal with. If you go around the court, you realize that not too many High Court judges are there. So if the Chief Justice in his wisdom wants justice to be administered, instead of asking the High Court judges to be inundated with all the cases, decided that let some of the Court of Appeal judges have additional responsibility for some of the High Court cases. I don't see anything wrong with it at all.
Mr. Kojo, I'm grateful that you found time to join us here. He is the PR for the Ghana Bar Association. Now, Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Ben Sali fumed with rage over the late arrival of municipal and district chief executives and their coordinating directors to the Regional Coordinating Council meeting. The meeting, which was scheduled to start at 10 a.m. on Thursday, started 40 minutes late. 3 MMDCs who came in late were logged out from the meeting. The MMDCs have since been queried. Now, Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafik Salam reports that 2 of the municipal chief executives went away, whilst the others sat in the corridor of the meeting hall throughout the entire duration.
You are not providing exceptional leaders. What sort of people are you? Come for meeting at 10 o'clock. It was only chief who was here. Leadership is not for decoration.
Leadership is not for decoration. A visible shaking and angered Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali did not take kindly to the refusal and late arrival of municipal and district chief executives, coordinating directors and heads of decentralized departments to the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council's meeting.
Before I proceed to give my address, I want to find out how many of the MMDCs are here. I've not seen one. Why is not here? Who else? Why is West? She's not here. Yes, and I will not allow her in. Coordinating directors, how many of you are absent? 5. So 6 are not here.
The program, which was scheduled to kickstart at 10 a.m., started 40 minutes after the slated time.
I will not tolerate any insubordination. Right? I will not allow anybody to undermine me or undermine the government of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I will not accept that in the region. I'm particularly disappointed in the MMDCs who are not here. We just returned from Accra, and these are some of the things the President talked to us about. Your responsibility is to lead your people.
Notable absentees and latecomers were the Wa Municipal Chief Executive Isaku Taire Momen, Wa West District Chief Executive Vade Dorote, Nadolo Keleo District Chief Executive Catherine Lankono, and Jiriba Municipal Chief Executive Nicolas Soyiri. The irony of it is that the quadruplet latecoming MDCEs have their municipalities and districts located closer to the meeting venue than their colleagues who reported earlier for the meeting. With the exception of the West District Chief Executive Vade Dorote, who sat at the corridor of the meeting hall throughout the entire duration, his opposite numbers at Wa, Jiriba went away after they were blocked at the entrance from entering by the security personnel. Dr. Binsali directed the Chief Director at the Upper Senior Coordinating Council, Peter M. Mala, to serve the deviant MDCEs with a query which they are expected to respond to by July 25. Dafiema Bure is a District Chief Executive, Nadi Moro Sanda, took some time off from his speech at the meeting to apologize on behalf of his colleagues for the lateness.
I apologize to you, our brigade chiefs, and everybody here on what happened this morning. I want to pledge or promise that it won't happen again. We are sorry, and it won't happen again.
The regional minister, however, refused the apology and insisted on harsher sanctions should the situation recur.
This is the forum for you to voice what is affecting your people. So if you decide not to use this platform, you'll be denying the people you are representing a lot. Henceforth, we're not going to tolerate this lackadaisical attitude to official duties.
Reporting for the news, Rafik Salam. Wow.
You're still watching Joy News Prime. Still to come, Ghana Education Service boss was only making an analogy in Free Senior High School Review comment. That's according to the Education Ministry.
We have not had that conversation so far as a review, especially within the context of what it was placed. It's from the understanding I have is an analogy he was creating. I mean, you and I know that when it comes to policy decisions, it has more to do with the president.
Welcome back from the break. And leadership of artisans and spare parts dealers at Swami Magazine has rendered an unqualified apology to the Member of Parliament for pelting him with sachet water and raining insult on him. The action against Osei Mensah Bonsu was in demand for the sealing of part of the main Swami to Macro Road, which had been left untouched for months. Now, the Majority Caucus in Parliament on Thursday called for an apology from the people at the enclave for the action. Chairman of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, at Swami Magazine, Anthony Opong, at a press conference said the displeasure of the people could have been registered non-violently. Nana Yaojima was at the Light Industrial Enclave and filed this report.
On July 18, the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, was pelted with sachet water and insults hurled at him as he toured the Swami Macro Road. The tour was to attain first-hand information on the impact of the road on the businesses in the enclave. Days before his tour, artisans and spare parts dealers had demonstrated over excessive dust from the delay in sealing the milled road after several months. Though the earlier demonstrations were not sanctioned by leadership, they believe it was in order. Chairman of Guta at Swami, Anthony Opong, apologized to the MP for the violence exhibited.
We are so much frustrated, and we are still frustrated about what is going on concerning the road. But we think the approach was very bad. That wasn't the way that we should go. So our boys took the law into their hands and pelted our honorable minister with sachet water and other unprintable words. We think that was bad. That was the reason why we are rendering this apology. It's not a matter of they accepting. Wrong is wrong. So once what they did was wrong, we think we don't have to confer with them before we come and condemn it. But if they are reasonable beings, they will realize that if it were their father or any other elderly person beyond their age that they did that, it's not right. So we believe wrong is wrong. So we need to apologize. We are not condemning them for taking the action. It's also an act of spontaneity because of the anger penting up because of the dust that was causing a lot of problem to us. So we are not condemning the action. We know it came out of frustration. But for the fact that they threw those waters and we're pleading with them to stop and they are not listening to the leadership, that is what we are condemning.
The leadership further explained all demonstrations embarked upon in connection with the road were spontaneous.
We called the press this afternoon to brief them about some allegations going around that what happened last Monday was orchestrated by the leadership of Swam Magazine, which is a powerful falsehood. So we called this press conference to refute those allegations. Taking the action to see the urban roads engineer, and he had assured that the road was going to be fixed the next Monday. So when that action occurred on Thursday, the MC informed the Honorable, and he wanted to have a first-hand information about what went on. So he came to meet the leadership and told and discussed with us about his plans for the road, and that unfortunate incident happened.
Meanwhile, bitumen, which was imported for the sealing of the road, have been received. Presently, contractors are compacting sections of the road as others spread bitumen for the overlay. Mr. Opon again.
With the pace of work, okay, they promised us last Monday, and since Monday we've seen them on the road, and as we are talking now, we see they started sealing the road. So I think we are satisfied with what is going on. We do hope that they won't stop and they will go ahead and finish both the sides of the road and make sure the traffic is flowing and flowing well.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
We are not going to the IMF. Whatever we do, we are not. The consequences are there. We are a proud nation. We have the resources. We have the capacity. Don't let anybody tell you. We are not people of short sight, you know.
I must say, I love Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Attah's conviction. He was cocksure that we would stem the tide. But we know the story did not end how he anticipated. Ghana ended up at the IMF. Ken Ofori-Attah did not tell us that he had changed his mind. The Information Minister rather announced that President Akufo-Addo had authorized the Finance Minister to engage the fund. Yes, indeed, the land of cocoa, gold, bauxite, manganese, oil, and timber, and so much more is now so broke because of, among others, COVID-19 and Russia-Ukraine. We were expecting, like many others, the Finance Minister to speak up, tell us the reason for the U-turn, perhaps even address us on how dire the state of the economy had become for us to resort to the IMF. But he was silent. Last week, Vice President Dr. Bawumia rather addressed the IMF issue, and we all know how that ended. Mr. Ofori-Attah continued to remain quiet. Of course, our curiosity got the better of us when we encountered him at the MPP conference on Saturday, and we couldn't resist asking him his thoughts on the calls, a lot of calls for him to resign. This was his response.
Like telling a father to resign from his children because he's changed his mind. You know, there are times that decisions have to be made for the survival of a country, and therefore if circumstances such as COVID or Ukraine war occur, which are not typical, it does change the environment.
How considerate. Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta does not want to leave us orphaned, so he has chosen to stay. But seriously, I mean, we didn't get here by ourselves. It was his management, or rather, should I say, mismanagement, that choked us and buried us in debt so deeply that we had to seek help from the IMF. So, Mr. Ofori-Atta, you must resign. You did not believe going to the IMF was an option. You didn't tell us that you'd change your mind. What degree of comfort do you have meeting IMF officials you never wanted to meet in the first place? Although you had a strong start, it's obvious that your performance has fallen off significantly. We are aware that you desire to endure the storm in order to get your name inscribed in gold. However, Mr. Ofori-Atta, many Ghanaians, their faith in you has dwindled. We believe now is the appropriate time to gently exit the scene and pass the reins to someone else so they can guide us to the land of prosperity. We've been told that the NPP has a strong economic management team, and finding a replacement won't be so difficult. Mr. President, the responsibility is entirely yours. You were the one who said Ghana has gold, but is hungry.
I am a boy Ghana. It is Sikaso, or may you hear my Nenam a memoir enquayetino. A come there.
So you gave us Ken Ofori-Atta to manage the Sika. He is not performing as many expected. So why not heed the calls from all fronts to relieve him from his duties? To be clear, this is not an agenda against the minister, but perhaps a wake-up call that you need to substitute your team as any effective football coach would do. The finance minister is not the only one many feel has underperformed. But Mr. President, you need to do an introspection and substitute your players you know are not giving you value. Take, for instance, the gender ministry. You have brought Cecilia Dapa to take care of the ministry because Sarah Adjasafo is attending to personal issues. Madame Dapa herself is struggling to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. Adding the responsibilities of the gender ministry does not help her cause. LEAP is still in arrears. A woman who was accused of witchcraft in the Savannah region, Mary Ibrahim, has been crying for justice. But where is the gender ministry to come to her aid? Street children have multiplied on our streets. Ghana has only one public shelter. We need more, but who is running things to ensure that we get more? The very vulnerable people who need protection are on their own. Mr. President, you need to reshuffle your team. The reality is your team is not as strong as you led us to believe. Substitution is required to bring new ideas into your governance. You have only 2 years to establish your legacy. We doubt you want to leave us with our backs against the ropes. So, act now before it's too late. Please take action before your term expires.
Now, the Education Ministry and the Ghana Education Service seem to be on different pages when it comes to the future of free senior high school policies implementation. The funding of government's flagship program has come under scrutiny, especially in the face of the current economic downturn being experienced in the country. Some senior high schools have complained of food shortages and lack of funds for smooth running of activities. On the back of this, the GES Director General, Professor Kwesi Opoku Amankwa, indicated that work towards a review of the program are currently underway. This exercise he reviewed is geared at determining which of the cost components government can relinquish to parent to pay.
The thing has just been, the suggestion has just come up. So how can the review? I thought you were going to start to say whether the review has started. No, I think it's a bigger conversation. It's a bigger conversation, not only for GES, not only for the Ministry of Education, but for the entire country. And then what we will do is that for us on our part, we will start with the smaller ideas of looking at aspects of it. Today, for example, some of the discussions that I've had with my statistics team for them to do something for me is to do what we call unit cost analysis as far as educating a student
okay,
is concerned. So you do unit cost analysis, especially for the free SHS. So if we take Raymond as a student, starting from SHS 1 to SHS 3, we can do the analysis and then come up and say that, okay, to give Raymond quality education, it will cost this much. Within that cost, these are the items in the cost. Then we all put it out there and they say, oh, this item, I think we can make do of it. And it will not affect quality. This item, I think we can get parents to pay. This item, let's find some, let the regional, the district offices or regional offices take care of this, you know. So when we have done that and we've all added our inputs into it, then we can all come back and say that, okay, for this, the total cost for educating someone in the free SHS, this is it. But we believe that if you take them item by item, these items, we can do this, we can do that, we can do that. So at the end of the day, we can all agree that this is the amount that we believe that government should bear.
So that was the Director General for the Ghana Education Service. However, the Education Ministry says no such discussion has come to its attention. As far as the ministry spokesperson, Kwesi Kwarteng, is concerned, no discussions have been had to this effect. Speaking on the pause earlier, Mr. Kwarteng insisted that the Director General of the GES was only drawing an analogy during his accession.
Of the Ministry of Education and the Minister for Education, Honorable Dr. Yao Oseduchu, who I speak for, there has not been any discussion as such. We have not had that conversation so far as a review, especially within the context of what it was placed, is concerned. That issue has not come up. As far as we are concerned, the free SHS, of course, I mean, beyond these challenges, is something that we are still, government is still funding, and the program is still there and is still working, and we are still working to make sure that it's better. So let me put it in a very proper perspective that for the avoidance of doubt and for purposes of clarity, the Ministry of Education, which is the policy implementer, has not had such discussions when it comes to a review. Of course, I have just listened to what you played about a possible review of the Director General for the Ghana Education Service, and from the understanding I have, is an analogy he was creating. I mean, you and I know that when it comes to policy decisions, it has more to do with the president.
Now let's just stay with the Education Ministry because it has denied claims it owes the West African Examination Council for the conduct of last year's WASSCE and BECE. The deputy ranking member of the Education Committee of Parliament, Dr. Clement Apark, had alleged government owes the examination body about 23 million cedis, which is crippling its operations and threatening the smooth conduct of this year's WASSCE, which begins on August 1.
BECE and WASSCE 2022 are just around the corner. Government owes WAEC.
Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament Education Committee alleging the WASSCE and BECE for 2022 may be called off because government had failed to honor outstanding debt for last year's exams.
Arrears in the tune of 23 million for BECE and WASSCE conducted by WAEC in 2021. As we speak, WAEC needs a minimum of 96 million Ghana cedis to prepare for the 2022 BECE and WASSCE. Those monies have not been released. So the risk and the possibility that the WAEC's calendar could be disrupted is very high.
But Deputy Education Minister Reverend Intim Kojo has described the claim as propagandist and has further rubbished claims the exam may not come off as scheduled.
APAC is misleading the public. We are writing BECE, we are writing WASSCE. Every examination that is scheduled is coming on. There is no problem with WAEC. WAEC is adequately resourced. Every government obligation to WAEC has been met, and so we'll continue to engage them if they have further challenges they need us to assist them with. That is why we are here. We've always supported WAEC.
For the bulletin, there's more news at myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. I've enjoyed your company. To have a great weekend.